The galaxy had known peace for thousands of years under the guidance of the Elders, ancient beings who had seen civilizations rise and fall like the tides of time. They were not rulers of armies or builders of empires, but keepers of wisdom, the silent watchers of the stars. Their knowledge shaped the laws that held the galaxy together, and their words carried the weight of truth itself. Among their teachings was one that was older than memory, a single warning repeated across generations, whispered between species, carved into temple walls, and recorded in every archive of power. The Elders had said, "Never challenge humanity." No one truly understood why. Humanity was a name that had faded into legend. Some believed they had destroyed themselves long ago in a great fire that consumed their homeworld. Others said they had left the galaxy behind, venturing into another realm of stars. A few believed they never existed at all, that the warning was a story meant to keep young civilizations humble. Time turned the truth into myth, and the myth into laughter. The Elders never spoke of it again, but their silence was heavy, filled with memories too dark to share. As the ages passed, new empires rose from the ashes of the old. The proudest of them was the Varkun Dominion, a species of towering reptilian warriors born from volcanic worlds. They thrived on conquest, believing that strength was the only truth that mattered. Their fleet swept across sectors like storms, crushing any who resisted. To them, the galaxy was a prize to be claimed, and the Elders' quiet wisdom was nothing more than the fear of the weak. When they learned of a forgotten star system on the edge of the void, Sul, the ancient home of the humans, they were filled with curiosity and pride. Their scholars found ruins of old probes, ghost signals echoing from deep space, and fragments of human technology that still hummed with strange power. The Elders appeared before the Dominion's High Council, their glowing forms flickering with unease. They did not come as rulers, but as desperate messengers. "Leave that system alone," the oldest Elder warned. "You do not understand what sleeps there. Humanity was not like other species." "They are different," but the Varkun laughed. "Different? You mean extinct?" their Emperor Krathel said with a cruel grin. "If they still live, they will kneel. And if not, then their worlds will burn like all the others." His words echoed through the grand hall, carried by pride and arrogance. The Elders bowed their heads in sorrow, for they knew what would come. The warning had been ignored. Once again, the galaxy was walking toward the fire. The Dominion's armada set course for the Sol system, their engines leaving trails of lightning across the void. Their soldiers sang songs of victory, certain they were marching toward an easy conquest. But the Elders withdrew into silence, their eyes dim with old pain. They had seen this before. Long ago, in the forgotten wars of the past, the same mistake had been made, and entire empires had vanished because of it. Humanity had been the storm that no one survived. As the Varkun fleets crossed into human space, the stars themselves seemed to grow colder, as if the universe remembered what the living had forgotten. Deep within the old solar system, among the ruins of quiet planets and the broken rings of Mars, something stirred. Long-dormant machines began to wake. Old defense grids powered up for the first time in centuries. Beacons lit up across the void, sending silent signals through the dark. Humanity, long unseen and thought extinct, was stirring once more. The Dominion believed they were entering a forgotten graveyard, but they were walking into a battlefield that had merely been sleeping. The Elders' warning had been more than words. It had been a shield of mercy. Now that mercy was gone, and the galaxy would soon remember why the Elders had once feared the name of humankind. Far beyond the edge of the Dominion's reach, humanity lived quietly, hidden among the stars. After centuries of silence, they had not vanished. They had adapted. The old Earth was no longer the heart of their civilization, but it remained their soul. Around it, new worlds had risen, and the strongest of them was New Terra, a planet of silver oceans and great steel cities. There, the descendants of humankind built lives of peace and discipline, preparing for a day they hoped would never come. They had learned from history that power without control led to ruin, so they chose patience over pride and silence over glory. The Terran defense fleet guarded the borders of their hidden empire, watching the stars carefully. Every ship bore the mark of the old Earth flag, and every soldier was trained not just to fight but to survive anything. Among them was Commander Alara Voss, a woman whose name was already a legend among her people. She had been born on the old planet, one of the last to see the blue skies of Earth before it was sealed and protected by massive orbital shields. She carried the weight of that legacy with quiet strength, her heart shaped by both loss and loyalty. Alara commanded the battlecruiser Vigilant, a ship forged from titanium and human will. She had seen peace for most of her life, but she knew that peace was only the calm before the storm. When the first Varkun ships appeared on the edge of the Sol system, she was the first to respond. Reports came in fast. Unidentified vessels, massive in size, armed with weapons no one had seen in centuries. The humans did not panic. They had prepared for this possibility long ago. In the dark void above Earth's moon, the command station known as Sol Command came alive, its systems glowing as long-dormant protocols reactivated. Across the fleet, red lights flashed and sirens echoed through narrow halls. Every captain, every pilot, and every engineer moved with precision, as if they had rehearsed this moment for generations. The Varkun Dominion sent a message first, a declaration of conquest. It was loud and arrogant, promising to enslave the Terran colonies and tear down the symbols of human pride. When it ended, the control room fell silent. Alara stood before the central display, watching the enemy ships approach. Then a calm voice transmitted from Sol Command. "This is Terran Command. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." The Varkun responded with plasma fire. In a flash of light, one of the Terran satellites exploded, scattering debris across the void. For a heartbeat, the humans watched in silence. Then Alara spoke 3 words that would reignite the ancient fire in human blood. "Return fire, now." The void erupted with light. Human warships moved like blades through darkness, their railguns firing streams of metal faster than sound. Missiles streaked across the stars, guided by minds that understood chaos better than any alien could. The Varkun were shocked. They had expected an easy victory against a forgotten people, not a defense so swift and fierce. But the humans were not fighting for conquest. They were fighting for home. Every soldier knew that behind them lay Earth, the cradle of their kind, and they would burn the stars themselves before letting it fall. The first battle was fierce, but short. The Dominion's forward fleet was forced to retreat, their commander shaken by the speed and precision of the human response. Yet Alara knew this was only the beginning. As she stood at the Vigilance viewport, watching the wreckage of alien ships drift across the red dust of Mars, she whispered a vow under her breath. "They will come again, stronger next time. So will we." Far above her, the old flag of Earth waved once more across the fleet screens, a blue and white symbol of unity and defiance. The galaxy had forgotten humanity, but humanity had never forgotten the galaxy. And as the stars burned quietly in the distance, one truth became clear. The sleeping giant had awakened. The war truly began over the red skies of Mars. When the Varkun Dominion returned, they did not come with scouts or warnings. They came with an army. Their ships filled the void like a swarm of dark thunderclouds, thousands strong, each one armed with weapons that could melt continents. The galaxy watched in silence, believing humanity would finally be erased from existence. But the humans did not run. Every planet, every moon, and every station in the Sol system was ready. Commander Alara Voss stood on the bridge of her ship, the Vigilant, her eyes locked on the battle display that shimmered with the movement of enemy vessels. Her crew waited for her word, and she gave it without fear. "Engage!" The space above Mars erupted into chaos. Human ships shot forward like arrows, their railguns spitting molten steel, their missiles streaking across the void in brilliant trails of fire. The Varkun responded with their plasma storms, turning the battlefield into a sea of light. But what the aliens didn't understand was that humans had learned to fight against impossible odds. Every ship moved with reckless courage. They did not hold their lines. They shattered them, diving straight into the heart of the enemy's formation. Alara led from the front, her ship weaving between waves of plasma fire. The Vigilant was hit several times, hull plates melting under the intense heat, but the crew kept fighting. The humans had no illusions of safety. For every one of their ships, 10 Varkun vessels stood against them, Yet they fought like they had already won. Their drones, tiny, fast, and relentless, swarmed through enemy ranks, cutting engines and tearing into reactor cores. Even when human ships were destroyed, their automated systems continued to fight, guided by the last commands of their fallen captains. The Varkun commanders grew furious. Their enemy should have been crushed, yet these fragile creatures of flesh refused to break. Instead, they turned every loss into a weapon. A damaged cruiser would ram itself into a Dominion warship, detonating its reactor and dragging both into flames. A dying pilot would steer his fighter directly into an enemy carrier, laughing through his final transmission. For 12 hours, the battle raged across the orbit of Mars. The planet's red dust glowed from the constant bombardment. Even the moon, Phobos, cracked under the shock waves of the fight. The Varkun was stronger, faster, and more advanced, but humanity's greatest weapon was not technology. It was will. They fought not for conquest, but for survival, for the memory of every generation that had dreamed under the stars. Ilara's ship took heavy damage when a plasma blast tore through its engines. Fire and alarms filled the bridge, yet she refused to retreat. "We hold this line," she ordered, her voice steady even as smoke filled the room. With her ship dying, she made a decision that would be remembered for centuries. She aimed the Vigilant straight at the Dominion's command vessel, a massive dreadnought surrounded by energy shields, and ordered full speed ahead. Her crew didn't question her. They accelerated toward the enemy flagship, the hull glowing red-hot from damage. When they collided, the explosion was bright enough to be seen from Earth's orbit. The blast tore through the Dominion's shields, opening a hole in their formation. The remaining Terran ships seized the moment, firing everything they had into the exposed enemy fleet. One by one, the Varkun ships began to fall, their engines burning out, their hulls splitting apart. By the time the smoke cleared, Mars was surrounded by the wreckage of thousands of ships, both human and alien. Humanity had lost much that day, the Vigilant among them, but they had proven something greater than survival. The Varkun called it impossible. The humans called it a victory. Though the Dominion claimed they had won, their losses were too great to hide, and whispers began to spread across the galaxy. The impossible had happened. Humanity had stood against an empire, and the empire had bled. After the Battle of Mars, the galaxy fell into a tense silence. The Varkun Dominion was furious at the humiliation it had suffered. Never before had a lesser species dared to fight back with such defiance, and never had so many of their ships been lost to what they called a primitive race. Emperor Krathul could not accept defeat. His pride was wounded, his throne shaken, and his generals demanded vengeance. Across their empire, massive shipyards began to awaken, building a new fleet greater than any before. 500 warships, armed with weapons strong enough to crack planets, were gathered under Krathul's command. Their mission was simple: to destroy humanity completely and erase their name from the galaxy. The Elders tried one last time to stop them. They appeared before the Dominion's High Council, their glowing forms flickering with sorrow. The oldest among them spoke, his voice soft but heavy. "You do not understand what you are doing," he said. "They will not stop. They will not yield. You cannot fight humanity and live." But the council ignored him. The Emperor's rage was louder than wisdom. Soon, the Dominion's new armada burned across the void, heading straight for Sol. In the darkness of space, humanity waited. The loss at Mars had not broken them. It had hardened them. The survivors rebuilt their ships, repaired their defenses, and studied every fragment of alien technology they had captured. Their scientists and engineers worked day and night, learning from the enemy's mistakes and turning them into weapons of their own. They built stealth ships that could disappear into the void, invisible to scanners. They developed jammers that could blind enemy systems and mimic entire fleets out of empty space. Commander Ilara Voss, who had survived the destruction of the Vigilant, now led a new flagship, the Vigilant II, a ship built with both Terran steel and Varkun alloy. Its hull shimmered like a ghost, and its engines were silent as shadow. Humanity had always been good at adapting, but now they were something more: hunters. When the Dominion fleet crossed into human space, everything seemed calm. Their scanners picked up nothing but silence. The stars were empty, the planets dark. They thought humanity had fled. Then one by one their ships began to vanish. At first it seemed like accidents, Malfunctions, perhaps sabotage, but soon the truth became clear. Humanity was there, unseen and waiting. Hidden fleets attacked from nowhere, their weapons striking without warning. Missiles appeared out of darkness, tearing through engines and reactors before the Dominion could respond. The aliens tried to regroup, but their communication systems failed, jammed by signals that twisted their frequencies into chaos. Their own sensors showed false readings, phantom ships where none existed, false coordinates that led them straight into ambushes. From her command deck, Ilara watched the destruction unfold with cold focus. "No mercy," she ordered. "They would show us none." The Vigilant Two led the charge, darting between warships like a predator among prey. The human fleet fought with precision, every movement calculated and ruthless. The Dominion tried to fight back, firing wildly into the void, but their shots hit only empty space. Panic spread through their ranks as entire squadrons disappeared in minutes. When the battle ended, not a single Dominion ship escaped. 500 warships entered human space. None returned. Far away in their shining cities, the elders felt the echoes of the slaughter ripple through the stars. They had warned the galaxy for millennia, but no one had listened. Now, once again, humanity had reminded them why the warning had been spoken. For the first time in centuries, the elders bowed their heads not in sadness, but in awe and fear. Humanity had proven what the elders already knew deep in their ancient hearts, that the most dangerous force in the universe was not technology or numbers or power. It was the unbreakable will of humankind, the fire that never died, no matter how many times the stars tried to extinguish it. After the destruction of the Dominion's grand fleet, the galaxy believed the war would finally end. But for Emperor Krathul, defeat was impossible to accept. His pride burned hotter than the suns his empire controlled. He had lost thousands of ships, countless soldiers, and the respect of his people. Whispers of rebellion spread through his ranks, and even his closest generals began to doubt his strength. In his fury, Krathul decided to lead the final attack himself. He commanded the construction of a weapon unlike anything seen before, the Worldbreaker, a warship the size of a moon, capable of tearing planets apart with its main cannon. It was powered by the hearts of dying stars and shielded by layers of pure energy. When it was complete, its shadow covered entire worlds. The Emperor stood upon its command bridge, looking out into the void, his eyes burning with hate. "I will burn their home," he growled. "I will erase their sky and their name from history." His generals obeyed, though fear trembled in their voices. The Dominion's last fleet gathered behind him, and the greatest invasion in galactic history began. As the Worldbreaker entered human space, its arrival was felt like a storm. Every Terran sensor lit up, every alarm blared, and across the colonies, soldiers prepared for their final stand. Commander Ilara Voss aboard the Vigilant Two watched the readings with a cold, steady gaze. The enemy's ship was beyond anything she had ever seen. It was not just a warship, it was a moving apocalypse. Around it, smaller Dominion vessels swarmed like hornets, ready to die for their Emperor's vengeance. Ilara knew this battle would decide everything. Humanity would either survive or be wiped out completely. She gave her orders quietly, her voice firm. "All fleets, hold formation. Earth must not fall." Across the system, thousands of ships moved into position. Defense platforms powered up around the Moon and Mars, and even the old battle stations orbiting Jupiter came to life again. Earth itself remained silent, hidden behind a curtain of energy shields that shimmered like morning mist. When the Worldbreaker reached Earth's orbit, its massive cannon began to charge, gathering light from the surrounding space until the sky itself seemed to bend. The Emperor smiled, certain of his victory. But before he could give the order to fire, something unexpected happened. The space around Earth shimmered, and from the darkness, thousands of small lights appeared, satellites that had been sleeping for centuries. They formed a glowing ring around the planet, connecting into a massive web of energy. The old systems of Earth had awakened. Beams of light shot out from the satellites, forming a brilliant shield that absorbed the first blast from the Worldbreaker. The energy rippled across the sky like a second sunrise. Then, deep beneath the planet's surface, an ancient mechanism came to life. The Aegis Protocol, a weapon created by humanity's ancestors during their darkest wars. Its power was beyond modern understanding, built from technologies long thought lost. The Earth itself seemed to breathe. Massive energy spikes erupted from its poles, reaching out into space. The Worldbreaker's shields began to crack, unable to withstand the raw force of the planet's defense. Alara's fleet joined in, firing everything they had. Missiles, kinetic slugs, and plasma beams rained down on the colossal ship. The Dominion fought back, but their shots scattered against the Aegis shield. On the Worldbreaker's bridge, Emperor Krathel roared in anger, ordering his men to fire again. But it was too late. The Aegis protocol unleashed its full strength, a blinding wave of light that pierced the darkness. The Worldbreaker was torn apart from within, its reactors collapsing as energy consumed it. The explosion was so vast, it lit up the skies of every Terran world. When the light faded, the Emperor and his great ship were gone. The last Dominion vessels fled, broken and leaderless. Silence filled the void once more. Alara watched from her command chair as the wreckage drifted in orbit, her reflection caught in the faint glow of Earth's shield. Humanity had survived, but at a great cost. She closed her eyes and whispered, "For every life lost, for every world burned, we endure." Far below her, the people of Earth looked to the stars and knew they were safe. For now. The battle was over, and the homeworld had spoken with the voice of legends. Humanity had reminded the galaxy why it should never have been challenged. When the war finally ended, the galaxy fell into a strange and heavy silence. The Varkun Dominion, once proud and feared, was shattered beyond repair. Their fleets lay in ruins, their emperor dead, and their worlds burned by their own arrogance. Across the stars, the echo of the final battle at Earth spread like a ghost story. Every surviving civilization heard of how the humans, the so-called forgotten species, had stood alone against the might of an empire and prevailed. Planets that had once mocked the Elders' old warning now spoke of it with trembling voices. The words that had been ignored for centuries, "Never challenge humanity," were remembered again, not as a myth, but as a truth written in fire. The Elders themselves emerged from their hidden sanctuaries, their glowing forms dimmer than before, yet filled with awe. They had lived through ages of war and peace, seen empires rise and fall, but never had they witnessed a story like this repeated. Humanity had survived once again, proving that their spirit could not be broken, no matter the odds. On Earth, the world slowly began to heal. The skies were clearer than they had been in years, the ruins of the war carefully rebuilt by hands that refused to give up. In the orbit above, the shattered remains of the vigilant Atu drifted silently, a monument to those who had given everything to protect their home. Commander Alara Voss stood on the plains of her home planet, surrounded by young cadets wearing the insignia of the new Terran Defense Fleet. Her uniform was scarred and worn, her eyes tired, but there was pride in her every breath. The people around her looked to her as a hero, yet she felt no glory, only responsibility. She knew that every victory had a price, and the cost of this one had been high. She thought of the soldiers who had fallen, the ships that had burned, and the quiet courage of those who had faced fear and fought anyway. As she watched the first sunrise after the long war, the golden light broke through the morning mist, and for the first time in years, she felt peace. The Elders visited Earth soon after, not as rulers or teachers, but as guests seeking understanding. They met with humanity's leaders in quiet chambers, their voices filled with respect. "You have reminded us why we feared your kind," one of them said softly, "and why we respected you above all others." Alara stood before them and replied with simple words. "We do not seek fear. We only seek to live free. But if anyone tries to take that from us again, we will fight for it." The Elders bowed their heads, acknowledging the truth in her voice. They understood now that humanity's strength did not come from power or weapons, but from something deeper, the will to survive, to adapt, and to rise again, no matter how many times they were pushed down. In the years that followed, humanity did not become conquerors. They did not seek revenge or expand their territory through blood. Instead, they became the silent guardians of peace. They helped rebuild the damaged colonies of other species, shared their technology with those willing to learn, and turned the scars of war into lessons for the future. To the young races of the galaxy, they became both legend and warning. Songs were written about the Battle of Earth, stories told around fires about the humans who had faced the storm and refused to break. And among those stories, one line was always repeated. They are the fire that never dies. Ilara spent her final years teaching new generations of soldiers, telling them not to chase glory, but to protect what truly mattered. When she looked at the stars, she saw not the enemy's wreckage, but the endless possibilities ahead. Humanity had been tested and had proven its worth not through domination, but through resilience. The Elder's greatest warning had been ignored, and in doing so, the galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. For in the end, when all else fails and hope seems lost, there will always be one force left standing, the unyielding heart of humanity, burning bright against the endless dark.